It's more than enough to let the light in. The way you're making me feel, it's divine. It's enough to let it flow, let it be. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. My life. For the rest of my life. You're in my sight, in my mind, in the quiet and up front out loud, in the calm, in my spirit and the storm. 'Cause you're everything that I crave in this life. 'Cause we're everything we can't find in another life. Take my hand and my promises, they're yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you. Keep my heart and my honor is yours to be held, and I want you. I only want you for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. For the rest of my life.
Welcome to the locker room. Hold on. I'm Nancy, and today we're going to try to figure it out. I was expecting an email, and I waited and waited and waited, and I figured I'd set this live stream up, and then if I got the email, I could change the time on this live stream till tomorrow and do what was on the email I was expecting, but I didn't receive the email. So I did gift out 5 memberships today. I don't know how I did it from here. Okay, that wasn't it. But I did it. Let me see. Did I do it on here? Hello? There it is. Okay, let's send these 5. All right. I just gifted 5 more memberships. So we have 10 members for the next month. And I don't see, let me see if I can see who got the memberships. Well, that wasn't what I wanted. It went to a peach cobbler recipe on my phone. Okay. Okay, what is true? Heart 13, Heather 1313, CCMD5, the OG Mommin, Osisk. Well, welcome to all of y'all. I hope you enjoy the channel and want to stick around. And if you have a topic you'd like to talk about, let me post it on here. Oh, that's not even my, put the wrong, I have so many email addresses. Okay. All right. Now this is my email address. If you would like, if you have a topic you want to discuss, the earlier you can email me, the more I can have time to review the subject and get some background information, not about you, but about the topic that you want to discuss. And I'll be happy to put it on here. We can talk about anything. I do have my degree in social work, and my minor was in psychology, but I am not licensed to give medical advice. We'll put it that way. I'll talk to anybody and I'll help anybody out any way I can, but only with suggestions. I can't give medical advice. So I'll be honest with you right there. All right, let's get started. This first one's coming from somebody called Happily Rewired. And it's, look, all day long. Today I start yawning. Okay. The psychology of people who overthink after every conversation. And I am guilty. Definitely 100% I'm guilty. Even after my live streams, I get off and I go sit and I think about it. And I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that. And I've had friends tell other friends that I have no filter. Well, I do have a filter. I worry very much about whether I hurt somebody's feelings or not. But sometimes words will come out wrong, or somebody will be on an off day where they're not 100% themselves, and a person can say something and it'll feel like it's an attack on their feelings, but it's really not. Not my case anyway. Okay, so you can see I have an eye. Let me pull this off here. My eye has a blister on it, like a blood blister. I think it's because of my dogs. I think I got a dog hair in my eye. I'm not sure, but I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. It is not pink eye. I can look at the light. I have an LED light right here. I can look at the light and I'm not yawning or anything like that. So we're all good there. I'm going to the doctor to find out what it is. And plus to get back on my antidepressants. A different kind. All right, let's listen to this.
Have you ever walked away from a conversation and then replayed it in your head for hours? Something you said, the way they paused, that one look you can't stop thinking about. Most people move on. But some people don't. Psychology calls this overthinking.
I'm one of them who don't. I don't. Last year, not in 2025, but in 2024, just before Christmas, I found out a girl I went to school with was in a rehab facility here in town. And I went to visit her and I took her a sweater for Christmas. I had no idea that she had gained like 50 pounds. If it was that much. I don't know how much she had gained. But she used to be skin and bones, and now she's a normal sized person, And I felt bad because the sweater was too small for her, was going to be too small. I said, I didn't mean to get the sweater too small. And I didn't mean to, but I hurt her feelings. And then she told another friend that I had no filter. It wasn't that I didn't have a filter. It was that what I said hurt her feelings. And I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. But I was just being honest. So, and that's what I do. I'm still today overthinking that conversation. That's the only sentence in the whole 20 minutes I was in a room that I can think of that I could have hurt her feelings. So, yeah, I overthink things.
But that word doesn't really capture what's happening. Because this isn't about thinking too much. It's about caring too deeply. People who overthink after conversations are usually highly aware of others. They notice tone changes, facial expressions, small shifts in energy that most people miss. Their mind isn't searching for drama. It's searching for safety. For many of them, emotional safety once depended on reading the room perfectly. They learned early that misunderstandings had consequences, so their brain adapted. It started reviewing conversations, not to judge, but to protect. They ask themselves questions like, did I say too much? Did I sound strange? Did I upset them without realizing it? And the moment
See, I ask myself those same questions. I do. I ask myself those same questions.
the conversation ends, the mind doesn't rest. It rewinds. Overthinking becomes a way to gain control after uncertainty, a way to prepare for what might go wrong next time. But here's the part most people don't understand. These people aren't insecure in the way they're often labeled. They're deep processors. Their brain stays alert longer because it learned that connection matters. Silence after a conversation can feel especially loud. A delayed reply can feel personal. Not because they're needy, but because their nervous system is still on high alert. They don't stop thinking because their system doesn't feel safe yet. And when they finally do find something they wish they'd said differently, they carry it longer than they should. But psychology shows something important here. This pattern didn't come from weakness. It came from adaptation, from learning to anticipate emotions before they exploded, from learning to stay one step ahead to avoid conflict, rejection, or disappointment. If this is you, hear this carefully. You're not broken. You're not socially awkward. You're not too much. Your brain learned to protect connection by analyzing it. And while that skill once kept you safe, it doesn't always need to run the show anymore. Sometimes a pause in conversation means nothing at all. Sometimes silence isn't a sign. Sometimes you were simply enough. And learn.
I had to learn that about text messaging because I used to think if I text messaged somebody and they didn't respond for a day or two, that they must be mad at me. And I had to tell myself that people have a life. They have things to do, and it doesn't always involve what I think should be going on. It doesn't always involve me sending a message and getting a reply right away. And it's really hard for me not to respond right away when I get a message or something, but I try. And sometimes, especially like today, I was on the phone with the bank because yesterday somebody compromised a debit card that I'd never used online. I'd only had the card 2 weeks. And the only reason we used that particular bank account is to make our house payment. But I had to activate the debit card or the bank was going to close my account. So and then yesterday my card got compromised. So today I was on the phone with the bank, talking to the bank because I didn't order no luggage. And the thing is, whoever it was only wanted to order like a $9.87 designer handbag, which wasn't very designer if it wasn't even $10. But it wasn't me making the purchase. And I wasn't going to give them access to make a larger purchase. So, yeah, we closed that card down and ordered a new one. And my friend in Hutchinson called me, and I had to try to get back with her. Well, they were bouncing between doctor's appointments, and I couldn't reach her the first time I tried to text her. She didn't get my text. So eventually I waited about an hour, and then I called her back, and she was on her way to the next doctor's appointment. But, it's all good. She says, I'll call you back. We just got to so-and-so child doctor's appointment. I'm like, okay. I still ain't heard back from her, but my feelings are not hurt because I know that she will. She will. She's working on things. She just got where she can walk around again after breaking her leg last fall, and she's doing really well. All right, so let's finish this up on this one. It's almost over.
Learning to let conversations end without replaying them isn't about caring less. It's about trusting that you don't need to monitor every moment to be accepted. Peace doesn't come from finding the perfect thing you should have said. It comes from realizing you were already okay when you said it.
That's the hardest one to figure out. You're already okay when you were in the conversation. Now, I don't know if I really hurt that other girl's feelings back then or not, but it was reported back to me that I had, and I wanted to apologize, but I was told not to call and not to apologize. But another friend of mine who knew the situation talked to the girl who supposedly said I had no filter, and it was just a misunderstanding. All right, so this one is overthinking 4, social anxiety. Why did I say that? I do that. Okay,
Someone gives me unsolicited advice. When I was younger, it came.
You all know that feeling. Like you come out of a work meeting or hang out with friends and you start thinking, like, why did I say that? I should have responded this way.
I do that. I used to when I could go on job interviews. I used to do that. I'd come out of a job interview saying, I could have had a V8. I should have said this. I would have sounded much more knowledgeable about the subject. Even though a lot of times I beat myself in the head and I still end up getting the job. Not every time.
I'm such an idiot. Or what did he mean when he said, or you think, oh, I was the most awkward person at the party, or I overshared way too much information. Or maybe you worry, oh, did I hurt someone's feelings? This type of overthinking can be a symptom of social anxiety disorder. It can also just be a symptom of anxiety in general. But when you overanalyze your personal relationships to the point that you're afraid of an emotional connection with another person, you're essentially slipping into a mental rut called rumination. It's really common and there's a lot you can do about it. And in this video, you're going to learn 4 ways to stop overthinking every social situation. If you want support to work through social anxiety, you may benefit from working with a licensed therapist. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. With BetterHelp, you can tap into the world's largest network of licensed, accredited, and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety.
Now that's her own commercial for her sponsor. I'm not sponsored by them, but and you're more than welcome if you feel like you need this type of help. You're more than welcome to use her code, and it won't hurt my feelings at all if you want to use her code to get with a licensed therapist.
relationships, trauma, grief, and more. But the best part is you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Check out the link in the description for 10% off your first month. Okay, so
And the link in the description to her channel is in my description. The link to her channel is in my description.
you just got back from the party and your brain is in full overdrive. You start thinking, oh, why did she say that? You try to read between the lines. Is she mad at me? What did she mean by that? Was she joking or serious? Or even more likely, you worry about something you did. You say, oh, why did I say that? I'm so awkward, right? This is called post-event rumination. It's a nasty little cycle that makes your social anxiety worse, but you can fight it with the powers of CBT. So let's look at the cycle first, and then we'll talk about a few easy ways to reverse it. So first, you go to a social event, and then you evaluate yourself, and then you ruminate. That word means to chew the cud. You basically regurgitate your evaluation, and then you re-evaluate yourself, but darker. And then you come to the conclusion that you're the most awkward person in the world, which increases your anxiety, which you take with you to the next social event, and the vicious cycle continues. But these two steps in the middle, this is where you can intervene, right?
Because for me, between increased anxiety and going to the next social event, I would cut it off. I wouldn't be attending the next social event because I was too dumb to be at the last social event. So, yeah, that's where I go. I have to be specifically invited. Except to my high school reunions. We just had our 40th high school reunion this year, and it was so fun. I'm so glad I went. But I invited myself.
Continues. But these two steps in the middle, this is where you can intervene, right? You can change how you evaluate yourself and stop rumination. And then your anxiety won't keep going up and you'll reverse the cycle. So let's learn 3 cognitive restructuring techniques that help. Cognitive restructuring is just a fancy word for saying changing how you think, but it makes me feel smart to say it. Okay, so number 1, let's start by admitting to yourself that your self-evaluation is probably distorted. So let me give you an example. I read this story on Instagram. A shy young lady is sitting on a bus and she brought her dog with her. A man gets on the bus, he sits near her and he says to her, "Are you allowed to have dogs on the bus?" She just shrugs and looks away, right? But inside, she's freaking out a little. Is he judging her? Is he going to try and get her kicked off? Is he going to start some trouble? And then out of the corner of her eye, she sees him pull his little dog out of a very nondescript pet carrier. He wasn't judging her. He just wanted to be like her. Okay, so if you're a sensitive person, your view of yourself is most likely distorted to see yourself more negative than reality. And there's a very high chance that whatever thing you said or did isn't as bad as you imagine. If you have anxiety, you're probably anxious, not awkward or offensive. So the first distortion is the belief that what you said or did is so much worse than it actually was. And I'll call this horribilizing. Okay, now the second way your self-evaluation is distorted is by emotional reasoning. So if I feel anxious, I must have been awkward. If I feel embarrassed, I must have been doing something wrong. To defeat this, we need to get good at naming emotions and separating emotions from reality. So stop saying like, oh, I was so awkward, and just admit to yourself,
once a year I do a program that's for free. I started during COVID, and as they're shutting down all the stadiums around the world.
I felt fear or I felt anxious. You shift your language from labels, like labeling yourself, I was so awkward, to experiences. Here's what I felt. Now, if you actually don't know how to say hi to someone, if you've never been taught how to introduce yourself, then you could benefit from learning some social skills.
I just walk up and say, "I don't know you. I don't know why you're here. Can you please say your name?" I know I did that at my mother-in-law's funeral. I didn't know 2 people that were there, and I said, "I'm sorry, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you." And I said, "How do you know this family?" And this, young girl who I'm friends with now, found out she's my husband's cousin. She told me her name and told me her brother's name, and I went back over to my husband. I said, well, it's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you. I said, go get yourself something to eat, something to drink. And I went over and told my husband who they were. And he's like, that's my Uncle Art's kids. He didn't even know who they were. And then they got right there at the funeral, everybody became Facebook friends. So, but I could have messed things up and started a big problem by walking up and saying, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Why are you here? But that's just who I am. That's just who I am. I'm really shy around just a few people. But when I get around a big crowd, then I become a jerk and get mouthy and
skills. But most people are socially anxious, not socially awkward. So be honest with yourself. You have a tendency to judge yourself harshly. What you did is probably not as bad as you think it was. If a friend had done it, you probably wouldn't have thought twice about it. So there's another sign that your self-evaluations are distorted. If you have a different standard for yourself than for others, it means that you're not seeing things clearly. Okay. Number 2, the second big cognitive distortion with social anxiety is that everyone is looking at me. Everyone's noticing how sweaty or awkward or offensive I am. Sorry, they probably aren't. They're probably not spending much time obsessing over every little thing you say or do. The trap of social anxiety is that you get sucked into this hole of self-examination that just makes you more anxious. This is egocentrism. It's not pride. It's not cockiness. It's distorting reality to think that everyone else is looking at you, that you're the center of their world. When it comes to changing how you think, you can't just stop thinking this way. The more you try to suppress a thought, like being worried about yourself, the more attention you give it. This is the classic pink elephant example, right? So instead, you need to shift your attention to something else. And in this case, it's other people right here in the present moment. Shift away from being stuck in your thoughts and redirect your attention to the here and now. You can use mindfulness to notice these egocentric thoughts and then shift your attention to others. How are they feeling? How was their day? What are they doing this weekend? Or if it's after the party, you could think, oh, what's some nice thing I could do for Parker? Or who could I invite next time? Or what would I rather be doing with my time instead of judging myself and overthinking everything? Right? Find something that matters more. Basically, when we shift our attention outward, we just won't have as much energy to dwell on ourselves. Okay, number 3, even if your biggest fears came true, you did say something dumb, or someone else was judging you harshly, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
Scribe is how you stop explaining the same thing over and over at work. Watch this. It'll change your life.
The cognitive distortion, the faulty thinking here is that it would be catastrophic if I messed up. It would be a disaster if I got rejected. I mean, social anxiety is this deep evolutionary instinct that is based on our ancestors' ancient need.
I'm trying to get myself to understand that being rejected is the other person's loss, not mine. Or if I can't convince myself of that over a situation, I'm like, I'm better off without it. I don't have it in my life for a reason. So it's like, maybe if things had gone just right, somebody might get hurt in the long run. So it's better for it to happen now, before it happens, than for it to happen later and more people get hurt, so anxiety-wise or socially or whatever. So I try to convince myself things like that and tell myself, like my husband being a truck driver, he was closed down for 4.5 days. He finally started driving again this morning. And uh, was it this morning? I'm sure it was this morning we were talking. He was telling me he was finally. Oh yeah, it was because I was talking to him about my bank card, and I was home. But yesterday he called me, and I was at Dylan's, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm at Dylan's." He said, "Oh, you finally got out." Well, it felt good to get out of the house after 4 days. He had been in basically a 6x8 box for 4.5 days. He got out of his truck to go bike riding because he bike rides when he can. The weather was good enough where he was parked, but the roads between there and Dallas Fort Worth were not good enough for him to make that load until today. So he was able to start driving, and which is a good thing because the same weather was coming right back in and it's supposed to be arriving Thursday or Friday, right where he was sitting. But they're going to turn him around and head him right straight back to South Carolina, and the weather's going to be bad back there. So I don't know what it is. That I told him the reason he had to sit there was so that him or somebody else didn't get injured, maybe both. You know, things happen for God works in mysterious ways.
For survival is this idea that like, oh, if I get kicked out of the tribe, I will starve to death and die. So the distortion is, if I get rejected, it would be terrible. I couldn't handle it. I would never recover. So let's be honest for a minute. Could you survive if you got rejected? Would the world actually end if you said something dumb? It might hurt. It might feel uncomfortable, but you can handle having feelings. You can get really good at feeling feelings. These distortions, and especially rumination, are all attempts to protect yourself, to avoid feeling real and vulnerable. You ruminate and obsess in a vain attempt to control what you can't control, other people's opinions. Or you overthink to avoid feeling fear. This is a habit you've developed to protect yourself from having feelings, and it's backfiring. And spending all this time trying to white-knuckle perfectionism in a social situation is a complete waste of time and energy because you can't be perfect. There's just too much ambiguity in social situations. So you have two options. You can try to kind of white-knuckle yourself into perfect interactions. How anxious do you think you'll feel if you do that, right? How fun will that be?
Or you can let go and be the silly person that you was meant to be. That's not what she's going to say. That's the way I am.
Or to practice real acceptance and vulnerability. And so that takes us to number 4. You can handle not being perfect, and so can your true friends. So with the thought, what if I messed up? Well, maybe you did. Maybe you did say something stupid or hurtful. Did the world end? Can you make space for imperfection in order to have real relationships with real people who really mess up pretty frequently? Would you rather have a sterile relationship where you only show your good side at all times, you keep everyone happy?
I have a friend, and her motto is, if you're mad at me, that's on you. I'm just being honest. It's so hard for me to accept that. It's hard. Of course, I can't get mad at her. No matter what she does, I can't get mad at her. But I can't live by that. I can't handle having somebody mad at me. I mean, not know why they're mad at me. I just can't deal with that.
Everything is perfect and never truly feeling accepted because you know the other person doesn't know all of the sides of you. Or would you rather have a real relationship based on real humans who really mess up, they do good, they apologize, they make up, and they accept others as they are? Social anxiety is fueled by...
This is how I'd learn AI in 2026 if I wanted a fresh start at 50. Watch this.
Underlying beliefs like, I must be perfect to be accepted. I must never make anyone else uncomfortable. I must never make a mistake in front of another person. I must never be weird, right? So what do? You got...
I make myself be weird in large groups to break my own anxiety. I do. And if I develop friendships out of that, wonderful. If people think I'm nuts and want to stay away from me, that's on them. It's very hard for me to get past that part. But that's the way I have to keep telling myself.
To shift what you value from perfectionism to real connection. Let go of futile attempts to control a situation by doing everything right and choose vulnerability instead. There is no perfect social interaction. Choose to be willing to feel, be willing to be imperfect, honest, vulnerable, to show up. And just say, like, I will be social anyway. I'll mess up. And that's okay, because it's worth it to me to engage with people. Being real is better than putting on a perfect show, at least for any lasting relationship. And when you do actually mess up, you can make repairs, because that's how real relationships work. But stop seeking constant reassurance. This is just an attempt to avoid feelings. Choosing your values is all about letting go of what you can't change, which is other people's opinions of you, and putting your energy toward what you care about, which is real connection with other humans. Okay, so just to summarize, here's 4 cognitive distortions that lead to overthinking, rumination, and social anxiety. Number 1 is faulty self-evaluation. If you're judging yourself differently from others, then you're not seeing clearly. Name your emotions and let go of self-judgment. Number 2, everyone's looking at me. No, they aren't. Shift your attention outward. Okay, number 3, if I messed up, it would be catastrophic. I wouldn't survive. No, you're safe. You can handle having feelings. Even if you did mess up, it would be okay. And number 4, I have to be perfect to be accepted. Replace that with, I value real human connection and all of the feelings that come with it. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Thank you for watching, and take care.
All right. Hush. It's the same lady doing a different take on a similar situation, similar subject. Did I pull her up on screen last time? I think I did. I don't think I did. I think I did. I don't know whether I did or I didn't. Okay. 6 therapy skills that stop overthinking everything. Okay. So this is like a take on the next step from what she was talking about the 4 overthinking skills. This is how to help you get past those. And this is, again, therapy in a nutshell. Give her thumbs up and say, let's go.
And in this video, we're going to be talking about how to stop overthinking everything. Okay, your boss emails you. He wants to meet with you in 2 days. He doesn't say why. Your heart drops. You feel sick. What did I do wrong, you think? He's going to fire me, you think. You spend the next 2 days obsessing over every little thing that you've done, every little thing he said. You're looking for clues. At night, you lay awake. Your brain won't shut up. It just rehashes everything at work over and over and over. And then during the day, you have a hard time focusing. You struggle to complete tasks. You catch yourself zoning out and just worrying about what he's going to say. You start asking your coworkers and managers for any clues. Your spouse is getting tired of hearing your endless worries. And
imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Finally, the time comes for your meeting, and you walk into his office with your heart just sinking. Your boss looks stressed. He looks tense. Take a seat, he says. And then he tells you that the manager above you is quitting, and he was wondering if you'd like to take the role. It comes with more responsibility, but also better pay. He tells you that he's heard a lot of good things that you're doing, and that he thinks you're a perfect fit for the job. You're thrilled. And while the new position will take some training, it's a great move for you. You breathe a sigh of relief. All that worrying was for nothing. You say thank you, you smile, and you leave the office. Then, as you walk out, you immediately start obsessing about why you were such an idiot to worry so much. What's the matter with me, you say? And then you start worrying about your new job. Will I be good enough? Can I handle it? And the cycle of overthinking starts all over again. Does that sound familiar? If you're an overthinker, you know this cycle well. And it's easy to feel helpless to stop the constant cycle of overthinking and worrying. Now, there's at least 4 types of overthinking: rumination about the past, worry about the future, overanalyzing decisions, and social anxiety. As in, why did I say that? Right? But you can learn the skills to stop overthinking. So in this video, you're going to learn 8 ways to stop overthinking and get back to living your life. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can get professional, licensed counseling from the comfort of your own home. BetterHelp employs licensed therapists in your state or your region who you can contact through video chat, and they can help walk you through the thought patterns that are super destructive to help you improve your mental health. Now, therapy is this amazing process where you get customized support on the issues that you're working on. And I think it's a pretty incredible process. BetterHelp just makes it a lot easier to access that therapist. So if you'd like to learn more, please check out the link in the description for 10% off. The very first skill to stop overthinking is noticing and naming, right? So rumination or overthinking is a bad habit that we're often not aware that we're doing. So the very first thing is to get really good at identifying overthinking and just say it out loud. I'm overthinking. You could also ask someone to point it out to you. Another way to get good at noticing is to learn your triggers. What time of day are you most likely to ruminate? Where are you most likely to overthink? Is it at work? Is it when you're alone? Is it when you're at the bar? What kind of situations trigger it? Just try to predict it. So if you're most likely to overthink something right as you go to bed or right after a social situation, prepare yourself to notice it so that you shift your focus to something more helpful. Once I was at a meeting and I said some stuff that was a little bit, emotionally reactive about a situation that we were working as a team to deal with. And afterwards, I texted everyone in the meeting. I was like, oh, guys, I'm sorry I said that. And someone pointed out to me, Emma, you're overthinking it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I am. And that helped me to separate myself from kind of the distress around that situation. If you're struggling to catch yourself overthinking, you could also set an alarm on your phone to go off once an hour. And then when that phone goes off, just check and see if you're ruminating, how much you've been ruminating that hour. And you just track it for a week, right? So in general, most people tend to ruminate when they have nothing to occupy their attention. Okay, so now that you've gotten good at noticing when you're overthinking, we're going to take 2 approaches. The first approach is setting limits on overthinking. And the second approach is to learn a bunch of ways to redirect your thoughts to something more helpful. Okay, so let's start with some limits. So the second strategy with overthinking is to postpone or schedule your rumination. And I'm using the terms rumination and overthinking interchangeably here, right? So if you're going to schedule or postpone your rumination, say, I'll deal with this later, or I'll worry about this at 2 p.m. You can put it on your calendar, right? This sends a message to your brain to stop nagging you because you're going to address the issue.
If I did that, I would forget at 2 p.m. what I wanted to gripe myself out about. And then later, when I'm trying to watch TV, I would all of a sudden remember what it was. And 2 p.m. done passed, and I can't talk to myself about it and tell myself how much a stupid idiot I was. So that wouldn't work for me because I would miss Doug every time. And then I'd be mad at myself for missing the boat.
This is super powerful, and you'll learn that you really have a lot more influence over your worry than you thought. Now, if you're just starting out with noticing your worries and starting to postpone them, a really great practice is to schedule worry time every day for 1 month, just to show your brain that you're serious about this. And then you just set a time limit on how long you're going to worry or problem solve. So you'll say, okay, every day at 2 p.m., I will worry for 35 minutes. And then I'll go back to doing what's important to me. And remember, I really like this saying, never worry in your head. Do it on paper, write it down, right? There's a lot of different ways to write it down. You can do a free write, do a locus of control activity, a pros and cons list, or a brain dump. And when you schedule that worry, it shows your brain that there's a time and a place for worry and a time and a place.
Work today is broken. Every day, people juggle so many different tools just to get work.
For not worrying. When you set those limits on it, your brain likes boundaries. It likes boundaries. So, scheduled worry. Okay, number 3. Now that we've set some limits, it's time to practice attention shifting. Your brain is a thought machine. It's going to constantly crank out hundreds of thoughts an hour. But you don't have to believe everything you think. So just because a thought is loud or frequent or intense, it doesn't mean it's true or helpful. There's a deeper you than your thoughts. Like, you are the referee. So you can learn to separate yourself from your thoughts. And when you do that, you get to choose which thoughts you'll buy and which ones you won't. And this is a skill that you can learn. You can practice it with mindfulness or cognitive diffusion exercises. And I've made a bunch of these on my channel. So check those out if you'd like to learn them. Now, as you get good at noticing your thoughts, it can also help people if they visualize shifting thoughts as changing the channel. So imagine that you've got a remote control for your thoughts, and you click the channel button to shift what you want to be focused on. So you might shift from just compulsive worry to, oh, what are you grateful for? Or you might shift from thinking about all the things you can't control to what can you control? Or you might shift from seeing everything as awful to, oh, what might be a more helpful way of thinking about this situation? So usually when we're talking about changing the channel, it means we're switching to things that are really specific, that are in your locus of control, and that are action-oriented. These channels tend to be more helpful uses of your energy than just sitting there spinning your mental wheels. Okay, so number 4, now that you've learned to catch yourself when you're overthinking and to watch those thoughts instead of getting too sucked into them, now you're going to learn some really practical ways to shift your thinking to something more helpful. Nature abhors a vacuum. So if you just try to stop overthinking, or if you aren't choosing where to put your focus, you may fall back into the habit of rumination. So let's start with an antidote that's always available to us. It's the present moment. So I'm going to ask you to turn your attention away from your inner world of negative thinking and turn your attention toward the outer world of your present moment. That includes the people you're with or the activities you're doing.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there just for a second. Do you notice anything, any trigger about her? Do you see any triggers about her as a person? Anything that you wouldn't normally notice about somebody? She appears to have a tendency of OCD. Yeah, she's a licensed psychologist, but they can have OCD as well. Because look at how her books, they're tallest to the shortest. Okay? They're all random. They're color coordinated. And because she has a large item on this shelf, she doesn't have any more books on this shelf, but she has a large item on this side too. Everything is asymmetrical for her. It's probably driving her nuts that this one book is laying on top rather than being in its rightful place. And This one was done by somebody who she was helping to learn how to rewind and rethink, because it can say they started to rewind right there. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I like her. She's a great person, and I wish I had this many books. But would I read them? Nope. I don't like to read.
And we can demonstrate this with a window with words on it. It's easy to get really focused on these words, but if we shift our focus to what's beyond them, we can see that even if this thought exists, there's a beautiful world right here, right now.
And I'm trying not to cry. I'm just like, I hate suffering. I've suffered myself.
So in this moment, I'm going to ask you to use your senses. What can you see in the here and now? Get out of your mind and into your body. What can you feel in your body right now? Can you notice yourself breathing? We can shift to noticing the present moment, and that can move us away from these repetitive ruminative thoughts. Now, this is a skill, and I know it can be really hard. When I'm stressed about a big problem, it's hard not to dwell on it, but you can learn to shift your attention, and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Okay, number 5 is learn to shift from abstract thinking to concrete thinking. So abstract or vague thinking sounds like overgeneralizations. It sounds like things like, oh, why can't I ever get my needs met? Why can't I be happy like my friends? It leads to self-loathing and helplessness. So instead of focusing on these big, vague problems, focus on 1 or 2 details and look for small things that you can actually act on. And this involves asking kind of the right kind of questions. So why questions almost always lead to a cycle of rumination. For example, why am I such a failure? Why are people so hateful? Why am I so depressed? Why do I overthink so much? What's the matter with me, right? Not one of these questions leads to action. I had a client who I told that why is now a swear word. Every time he brings it up, he has to put money in a swear jar. So his wife started calling him out on it, and he was able to catch himself using it all the time and then start to shift to something better. So instead of saying, why me? Why do I have to deal with depression? He started asking, what is one small thing I can do today for my mental health? And he usually ended up going for a walk outside or reading a book. And both of these were more helpful than pondering why he was depressed. Let me give you another example. So instead of asking, why can't I ever succeed at a relationship? You could ask, instead of asking, why can't I ever succeed at relationships? You could ask, what is one relationship skill I can work on? Now, if you don't know where to start, I've got a whole course with 30 relationship skills, right? So it's much more practical to pick one step to work on than it is to ask, oh, why am I such a failure at relationships? Okay, number 5, shift from overthinking to your values. Focusing a lot on overthinking is not going to stop it. Obsessing about overthinking is not going to stop it. Because when it comes to thoughts, trying to make them go away backfires. It's like the proverbial pink elephant. If you try not to think about a pink elephant, then you do. Now, before we can even start to change overthinking, we have to know what we do want more.
Or if you're like me and you're trying very hard not to think about whatever the pink elephant is, you gotta go thrifting, and what's the first thing you find on a shelf? A dadgum pink elephant. Pink elephant.
Of in our life. So instead of just distracting yourself, let's get good at shifting to what you really care about. You can retrain your brain to use its energy in a helpful way. So this might include being more present with our kids, being able to relax, taking helpful action, or living a meaningful life. So if you want to shift from this chronic overthinking, you may want to ask yourself, what is most important to you right now? Or what do you want your life to be about? With overthinking, your tendency is to withdraw and isolate. So you need to reverse that, even if it's just one step at a time. So explore your values. You could do the values exercise from video 26 in my How to Process Emotions course if you want to get clear on this. And that whole course is on YouTube. It's on a playlist called How to Process Your Emotions. Okay, number 6. The last skill is distraction. Distraction is one of my least favorite tools because it can so quickly lead to avoidance, which actually makes problems worse. Because when we're avoiding life, we're also avoiding the things we care about. So it's obvious that you can temporarily stop overthinking by endlessly watching Netflix or scrolling through TikTok, but then your life starts to lose its meaning and its purpose and its joy. But since we are trying to rewire a bad habit, you can use distraction as a short-term technique to basically try to break those ruts. Just don't let distraction take over living the life that you value. You've got to face your problems directly and then spend time doing something else that you actually care about, like gardening or exercising. Now, if overthinking is interfering with your life, it's awesome to get some help. Therapy is cool and it can be really helpful. There's a couple of approaches a professional can take to help you. There's CBT for rumination. ACT is really good at teaching cognitive diffusion. And also there's metacognitive therapy. And I'll link to an article below if you want to learn more about that. Now, in upcoming videos, we're going into a lot more detail about very specific steps you can take to deal with depressive rumination, which is overthinking about the past and regrets and mistakes. And then in another video on social anxiety, you'll learn skills to stop worrying about what you said and, obsessing about what other people think about you. So I hope you stay tuned. I hope you find this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching and take care.
So do you guys want me to look up some more of her videos and we can go over topics that she's covering? It's up to you. I can do it. I don't have a problem with it. And last but not, excuse me, I'm sorry. I had taco burger for supper. Last but not least, if anybody's going to have anything to say on the subject, who do you think it's going to be? The wonderful Dr. Phil. Feeling stressed. What Dr. Phil says we can do to promote good mental health and emotional health. All right. We're going to give him a thumbs up of approval. Raise the screen full screen and hit play.
Morgan, Joe, Simone, and Alex from Arizona. And we've been talking about all of these times that are going on right now. And at the break, Joe was saying, you know what? I'm through keeping my mouth shut. And, that may be one of the most important coping mechanisms you have is giving your feelings a voice. Really speaking out about how you feel. You have to do what works for you. And it begins with forgiving yourself for whatever you haven't done that you should have done or done that you shouldn't have done. You have to consciously manage your reactions. You don't have to react every time you can. You need to take care of your body physically, which means you've got to exercise regularly, eat right, do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself physically. You need to practice relaxation techniques such as visualization and progressive muscle relaxation. It's important that you manage your physiological stress in your body. I mean, even just taking a moment to breathe deeply at least once a day, you have no idea how this resets what's called homeostasis in your body, and it lasts for hours after you do it. So those things can make a really big difference, and I'm going to put that list on drphil.com. And I really hope you two will make a choice to have an active brother-sister relationship, because when one of you's gone, they're gone forever. I buried a sister within the last year. Robin's buried a sister within the last year. And I just hope and pray that you will choose to not let something over which you have no control dictate your relationship. We're out of time. I want to thank my guests today. Special thanks to Piers Morgan, dailymail.com editor-at-large, host of Good Morning Britain, and author of Wake Up, which is available now. Now stick around tomorrow because we're going to talk about something I am very passionate about, controversial cancel culture.
We're not talking about cancel culture, but not today anyway. So, have you gained any insight as into why we overthink things? Or are you an overthinker or an overachiever? Do you get anxiety if you need to meet a deadline and the deadline, the deadline's a week away and you've still got so much to do? So do you go into all stress mode thinking I'm not going to make it? And then when you realize that your part of the project is done 2 days early or a day early, do you get that overwhelming sense of, I made it? Only to turn right around and get bothered by that, did I do it right? If I hadn't done it right, if I didn't do it right, I'd still be working on it. There's got to be something I messed up. Then you go back and look over it and you change a few things here and there because you think you can tweak them and make them a little bit better. Then you have your presentation and you leave the presentation and you say, man, I shouldn't have changed those few things. They were better before. I shouldn't have done it that way. Let's don't do that. That's overthinking. And it's a vicious cycle that we let ourselves get into because as children, somebody probably told us in one way or another that we weren't good enough. Or maybe our parents didn't give us enough attention that we thought we should have. So we thought we had to do better to get more love from our parents. And now as adults, we feel like we have to do better to move up in the world. It's not that way. If you could tell yourself, if I could tell you one thing today, one thing that I would like for you to take out of this situation, out of this whole conversation, it would be, you are enough. You have done enough. You did it right. And if you made a mistake, so be it. It's not the end of the world. And I have to learn that myself. All right, so welcome to the 10 new people that got memberships today. I see 3 of you here. Please hit that thumbs up. And if you're on the replay, please hit the thumbs up. And then I'd also like to say, do you have a topic you'd like to have discussed? Please email me. I will conduct some research on the topic as quickly as possible, and we will make it a talking point. Email Nancy at getlocker, GETLOCKERED.com. If you spell it out in your head, it'll stick there. GETLOCKERED.com. And trust me, I spell it wrong often. I'll say, is that how you spell it? My husband, he set up my email for me and all that. I have a web page and everything under the same name. He's like, I'm like, It's not get locked. It's get lockered. We always forget. We do. We forget the ER. And I made up the name. And it's because I used to purchase abandoned storage lockers. I no longer do that because I don't have room to put the stuff out of the lockers. When it got to the point where we were paying rent on 3 storage lockers, because I kept buying storage lockers and both of our garages were full, my husband said, hey, it's time to do something. So I don't buy storage lockers anymore unless I find a really, really good one. So, all right. So remember, if you have a topic, email me and I will do some research on it and get to know a little bit about the subject, not your subject. You can tell me your story if you'd like, or tell me parts that's okay to post online. Or if you want to come up on stage, I can I can put the offer to come up on stage right there in the talking points over here. And you can come up on stage and you can tell your story and then we can discuss it. We can do it however you want. But remember, I'm not licensed, so I'm not able to give you medical advice. But I can be a place that you can vent your frustration. And maybe with you and me and whoever else happens to be in chat, maybe we can figure out another way to look at something and we'll get you to the right place. Or help you decide if you think you need therapy. Okay? So thank you for being here. Please hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. It's free and it does so much to help the channel. So do something nice for someone, even if it's be the reason that they smile today, and let's talk it out.